Hello, my name is Gabriel Cooper, and my project is on software engineering archetypes. This is a model I created for this project, and it's a content track, so I'll be delivering a course. In this presentation, we'll be going over the introduction of archetypes in general. Then we'll talk about the software engineering archetypes created and the archetype model. Then we'll talk about the course model, the purpose of the course, and what students hope to get out of this, and the lesson plan in detail on how the course will be delivered. And then we'll talk about the different platforms the course will be on, the assessments that will be utilized in the course, and the validation of data. So what is an archetype? There's different ways to look at archetypes, so I want to give you several examples. A high-level statement or pattern of behavior. A good example of this is the Myers-Briggs indicator, where a user will take the test and be classified into different categories for different purposes and indicators that they possess, whether they be introverted or extroverted, thinking or feeling. These are different examples. Fundamental characteristics of the object in question. A good example is character classes in a video game. The player would choose a class and they'll get a set of traits that they understand that they'll be using. A warrior favors offense, he favors dexterity or stealth, and a mage will utilize magic or wisdom. A collective idea, universal standing, and pattern of thought. I wanted to use cliques in high school as an example of this. Jocks are supposed to be good at sports, but maybe not in school. Preps are the most popular, and geeks are smart, and rebels, they stick out. Though this may not fit for every individual, but they are viewed to have these different traits because they belong to these different cliques. The reoccurrence of traits and attributes. A good example of this is the hero and villain construct, where they utilize movies and different advertisements to have the protagonist being the hero and the anti-protagonist as the villain. So we'll talk about the software engineering archetypes that will be developed in the course. There are 6 archetypes that we developed, and there was 2 naming conventions that I couldn't decide on, so I decided to use both. Where we have the code engineer, the programmer, the embedded engineer, the optimizer, the system engineer, the architect, the theoretical engineer, the academic, the computer engineer, the designer, and the mental engineer, the manager. In the archetype model, we'll be discussing these different topics. Relatable skills is where the students will create a relationship with the archetype. They'll be learning about the different skills and hopefully create a relationship to them. Then we'll discuss the industry roles, where they may fit in industry. We'll discuss with the students of different positions and different professions that you might find these different archetypes. Then we'll discuss the behavioral patterns, how they work, whether they like to work in teams or whether they like to work alone, and how they want to be treated in the teams and what position and roles they want to take on. Then we'll discuss the communication styles, how they want to communicate with their supervisors versus how they want to communicate with their peers, whether it be in person or whether it be in email. Then we'll talk about the obstacles and challenges that each archetype will face, their shortcomings, how they can improve, and what things that they need to strengthen, and how they can overcome the proposed challenges that each archetype will face. The purpose of this course is to develop metacognitive skills and soft skills in computer scientists and software engineers. And the completion of this course, each student will hopefully improve in their communication style and understanding of themselves professionally. Be able to utilize these different archetypes and the behavioral patterns to recognize in others and how they want to communicate to them. And hopefully that they will improve the communication with others and how they want to communicate in their profession. In the lesson plan, the section 1 will start with the introduction. The course will open up with how to use this course, and they'll be taking an assessment on metacognition, motivation, and self-efficacy. They'll be taking this assessment to get a baseline of exactly where they are in these different categories, and so that way we can measure what effect that the course has on these different topics. Then the students will watch the first video in archetypes in general, the examples of archetype used today, and how to apply this course. In section 2, the students will watch the second video, which will be an introduction of the software engineering archetypes. Follow the completion of the video, they'll do an exercise to determine their own archetypes. The exercise will also have a form where they'll be discussing with different students on why they chose the different archetypes and how they relate to them. Then they'll watch the next video, which will discuss the behavioral patterns. In the video, there'll be suggested behavioral patterns that they'll be discussing in the next exercise, and whether or not they agree or disagree with those behavioral patterns. They'll be also prompted to add different behavioral patterns and what they think that each archetype will suffer or be benefit of. Essentially, in this exercise, there is no right or wrong answers. Then they will watch the next video on communication styles, and they will have the same exact exercise where they'll be discussing what communication styles they want to add, whether they agree with them or disagree with them. Then the students will do a reevaluation of the chosen archetype. Do they still believe that they align with the archetype they initially chosen, and whether or not they actually align with multiple archetypes? In section 3, we'll talk about the different challenges of the archetypes. The video will propose different scenarios where they're in the office or communicating in teams, and propose different skills that they'll utilize to try to overcome the obstacles. In the exercises, they'll discuss these different challenges and obstacles, whether they agree or disagree with them, whether or not there are other obstacles or challenges that these archetypes may face. Section 4 will be the wrap-up of the course, where the students will have an exercise to discuss how to strengthen the archetypes and what ways they can improve themselves in their profession. And also they'll do an exercise on a self-analysis to the different archetypes, and we'll discuss how much of themselves do they align with the archetype they have chosen. And to finish up the course, each student will take a second assessment to see the variation of metacognition, motivation, and self-efficacy. In the course delivery, the course will be delivered on Google Classroom. I've chosen this as it will be easy to set up the class and put the videos on and to create forms on. The videos are being created in Doodly. Is a course, it's easy to make representation and to add the different aspects to archetypes. The exercises are still being researched. I'm thinking about using Google Forms and other open sources to actually give the ability for students to actually collaborate. Here are the different assessments that will be used during the course. I am still doing other research in other different assessments. However, these are the ones I'm tentative to use. However, I probably will be changing the different assessments to make sure that they align with the course. The validation process is still being researched. Once I know what assessments I'll be using, I think I'll have a better understanding on how I will process the data that will come from the assessments. If you are interested in taking the course early or want to be part of the course once it's in full production, please feel free to email me at this email. And I want to thank you for your time and watching this video, and I want to thank you for your feedback.